Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pirate Radio. I am your host who needs no introduction whatsoever, and you're not going to get one anyway. We're going to put a episode for next week, what was going to be the episode for this week. The airing of grievances is getting pushed back at least 1 week till after Christmas, mainly because shit's hit the fan all over the place. Let's see here. So, people are being shot left and right. And I see this as being a epidemic of cowardice within the Western world. We have become so complacent, so liberalized, so just feminized, really, that we don't even understand when we're being butchered, attacked, and we don't even, I guess I should say, we understand when we're being butchered and attacked. We don't know how to respond. For some reason, our response is somewhere in the neighborhood of zero. It's more of our response is to take those that are innocent, that are the potential victims or actual victims, and punish them somehow. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't like it either. But we see, so a lot of what's prompted this is you have the shooting that happened at Brown. And I need to, before I get too deep into this, I have to give a huge shout out to 50 Marie at Shades of Punky here on the Twitters, because she was onto this before anyone that I saw. I saw her post this, and it was very intriguing to me. I started looking into it, and then I think within a day, it was basically confirmed that the Brown shooting, the shooting at Brown University on Saturday, December 13th, was connected to the December 15th shooting at I think it was in Brookline, Massachusetts apartment, and a professor at MIT who was gunned down. She nailed that one. Shout out to her. Don't know how she did that. I hadn't even heard about the professor who had been murdered in his apartment there in Massachusetts, but she was all over it. So shout out to her. Well done. That's some of the best reporting I've seen in 2 decades. And as far as I know, she's not a reporter. She's just has a podcast and is a Twitterer and a mutual. But anyway, so if you're not familiar, there was a shooting at Brown University on December 13th in which Ella Cook, 19 years old from Alabama, and Muhammad Aziz Umarzakov, 18 years old from Uzbekistan, shocker, both were murdered, shot to death in a study hall classroom. Very murky details that were not shared with us. A very odd press conference with the police chief some 5 days later, which apparently the chief of police has a very thick Hispanic accent when he's the chief of police for Providence, Rhode Island. I know when I think Rhode Island, I think heavy Cuban accent. Said no one fucking ever. I'm not sure if it was Cuban or Honduran or Dominican or I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Rhode Island. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, in which in that press conference, a reporter asked a very, very basic question, I thought, of, hey, do we have any sort of like description? Did the shooter come in from a front door, a back door, a side door? What was the ingress, egress? And, it just seemed like a very simple, basic question of how was this perpetrated, to which the chief of police said, well, we're waiting on a roster of the students that were there from the university. We haven't talked to them yet. Feels like that's day one stuff. So you had not interviewed one eyewitness to the shooting who was in the room. Well done, idiot. Someone referred to this guy as a DEI hire. I have to be honest with you, when you see all these people referring to other people as DEI hires because they're just kind of aloof, possibly somewhat incapable of doing the job that they're hired to do. Um, it seems kind of racist-y. It's getting to that point at this point. But anyway, I digress. The guy obviously can't do the job. You can't do the basics. You're the chief. You're the one in charge. If you said, "Hey, do we have any eyewitness reports? Have you interviewed the witnesses?" And they were like, "Yeah, no, we're waiting on the school to tell us who was even there." I'm sorry, you're fired. Um, it's just unbelievable to me that was that was even a thing. But so apparently, the guy who perpetrated the Brown University shooting and also murdered the professor, who I think was some sort of nuclear engineer, very high level stuff that he was into, 47-year-old Nuno Loureiro. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. From Portugal, murdered all three of these people. These three people do not really seem to be related in any way. I mean, Professor Nuno was a professor at MIT. Again, how would we know, though? Because, the Providence Police Department has no fucking clue what's going on. This whole thing, and the shooter, whose name I'm not going to say, is a 48-year-old Portuguese piece of shit who was found shot to death by apparently a self-inflicted gunshot wound today. Or yesterday, excuse me, I believe. Yesterday afternoon. This whole thing was uncovered. The case was cracked by a homeless guy who apparently was living in a basement level building in Brown University, which I haven't corroborated that. It's still too early. But this guy saw the shooter, I guess, followed him around, had seen him around, took a picture of him, posted on Reddit, and then alerted the authorities to his post on Reddit, to which the authorities were like, "Oh shit, this guy cracked the case." And somehow they found him. Tracked him to wherever, to some storage facility where they found him shot to death with allegedly a self-inflicted gunshot wound. None of this makes sense. None of this. Now, obviously, as I've said, this is very early on in the investigation, if we can call it that. I would assume that the Massachusetts police, who basically, Brookline is just basically Boston. If you remember the Tsarnaev brothers, they ended up in Brookline and murdered an MIT. They're the ones that did the Boston bombing. They murdered an MIT officer, university officer, and took his weapon. So Brookline and Boston apparently are basically one and the same. It's just a simple delineation of probably a street or a river or something like that. But so I'm going to assume that the Boston Police Department really took over onto this whole thing and did what it has got it to this point. I don't really care necessarily about the actual shooting and this and that, although it's sus as hell. That's not my point. My point here is, when I'm talking about the cowardice epidemic, what I'm talking about is we've accepted for too long in this country the feminine way of doing something where you just say, "Oh, don't do that." Like putting up creating a safe space, creating a gun-free zone. We are going to put up a sign. We're going to say this is what we're going to do, and you can't do this here. This will bleed into, it's the feminization and cowardice epidemic of the West and America more, or America in the West more broadly. You see it playing out in Australia. I'm sure all of us saw the shooting that happened in Australia. Really bad stuff. But their response to that is more gun confiscation in Australia, more strict gun regulations, which, if you're not aware, Australia, I believe in 1996, somewhere in there, mid-late 90s, confiscated thousands of guns, issues permits for guns, very restricted. You can't have an AR-15. These two in Australia pulled off this attack with a bolt-action rifle and a shotgun, from what I understand, from what I could see. But this is what happens when you think like chicks, okay? This is all this is like political HR. When you have a human resources department running your policy and your politics and your lawmaking, and they're like running lead, this is the bullshit you get. Okay, you get it in Australia, you get it in the UK, where words really hurt people's feelings, and so we have to arrest you for that. And then also, you're seeing it happen here, where it's like we just need to do not have the thing around, and everything will take care of itself. And we need to just import people from all over the place, and they're just seeking asylum. Why do we have to accept people seeking asylum? Why do we have this kid from Uzbekistan studying at Brown University? He's not an American. Why is he here? Why do we have Chinese nationals studying at universities all over the country? Why is that a thing? Why is our fucking president telling us that we need to import these people because our guys can't make batteries? Maybe train up our guys, Big D. I don't know. It's just crazy to me that we've accepted this. We've been so... I guess we've been safe for so long. We've been relatively secure for so long that we're like the animal at the zoo who gets fed every day, and then all of a sudden someone stops showing up to feed you, and you're like, I don't even know what to do now. I guess I'll just sit here and die. You know, it's just crazy to me. You know, some of the notes that I wrote down about the situation. It's not specific to Brown University. These protocols exist whether it's regular public schools, universities, whatever. So you have the active school shooter stuff, okay? So every school in America, or at least most of them, do like active school shooter training. I know here locally, our local sheriff's department offers for schools and does them of school shooter training. What to do in a school shooter. This is what to expect from the police. This is how they're going to move. And it's not a bad thing to think about, okay? Having a level of preparedness is never really a bad thing, okay? The problem that I see with so much of this is like, if I was a school shooter, wouldn't I be privy to the protocols? So, like, wouldn't I know what to expect, what's going to happen, all of these things? It's all of this, it's this illusion of fucking safety. And that's the thing. It all comes back to everyone needs to be safe. Everyone stay safe. Do the safe thing. Wear the mask. Wipe your hands down with a Purell. You got to constantly wash your hands. Do this, do that. Everyone needs to be safe. We need to be safe. Everybody's got to be secure. We need security. No one's coming to save you. No one. Even when we look at the case of Australia and the shooting there at Bondi Beach, you know, I think some liberties have been taken with some of the pictures I've seen of like the female police officers with their arms up and doing that. I think this is just a kind of a clipped picture where she's probably actually directing people to do something. But one of the things I wrote earlier this week was, when you have a place like Australia that their cops, by and large, do have firearms. Okay, they're not like the UK where there's like a special officer. Pretty much every police officer in in Australia has a firearm, has a sidearm. Okay, they basically have Glocks. Everyone has a Glock. Okay. Here's the thing. They're armed. Assume they're trained to a certain level. What happened in Australia at Bondi Beach was a failure, a lack of imagination. And what I mean by that is, if you have never, let's take natural disasters. I live in Oklahoma. Tornadoes are a thing. Okay, strong, powerful storms are a thing. Floods, fires, but especially tornadoes. You need to have a level of preparedness for a tornado. Okay, there are protocols. You can have the Frady hole. You can have the storm shelter. You need to know where you need to go in a structure. You need to have some sort of after-the-fact protocol. You need to have a go bag. You need to have something so you can deal with this thing that happens, okay? So it's in your head. So you have this imagination. If you've never been through it, then you don't really understand how it's going to work necessarily, but you have a general idea. You can think about this thing, okay? When you take like Australia, where no one really has a firearm as a personal citizen, and you're just, the local police officer who's just, at this, I guess, Hanukkah celebration, I guess is what you would call it. You're there, you're providing some level of security, but you've never thought in your head, and I can guarantee you almost 100% that none of those officers have ever been through any sort of like mass shooter training. They definitely had never been through any sort of training on how to close a gap from a position through open terrain. Never. They had no idea on how to work together as 2 officers or 3 officers, how to shoot, move, and communicate. They had no fucking clue. You have shooters from an elevated position on that bridge that are raining fire down on unsuspecting, innocent people. Now, there's been a discussion that happens in the 2A community, which is fine, about being able to draw a pistol and shoot accurately in 50 and 100 yards with your carry piece, your 9mm pistol, your Glock, whatever it is. Okay, that's fine. If you can do that, if you can get to that level, outstanding. That's not really what you need to do in that scenario. What you really need to do in that scenario, especially when you're cops, okay? The 2A community is talking about it like one individual. You're your own support staff, okay? But it does work if you are the only person who has a pistol or a firearm. And that is, you need to get their attention, okay? That guy in Australia with the bolt action shooting from that elevated position on the bridge, you need to draw his attention, and you can do that by firing bullets at him. Get him to drop his head down. Surprise him. That's the whole thing. You shoot, you move, you communicate. If you're the officers, okay? Bang, bang, bang. I shoot as you move. Then I communicate. Hey, I'm going to reload. After I reload, I need you to shoot. I'm going to move. We're going to advance our position. It's very basic stuff, okay? Now, when you have 2 to 3 officers, you need to be fanning out a little bit, and he's going to fire at you. But guess what? You're a cop, okay? When you're a cop, you're the one who's supposed to get shot in this scenario if anyone gets shot. You're there to protect innocent life. You're going to put your life on the line to protect innocent people, okay? It's fine if you want to tell everyone to get back, but you need to be telling everyone to get back with a pistol in your hand, facing where the shots are coming from, okay? Not with your back to the shooter doing this with your open hands. It's a failure of imagination. That's what it is, okay? And I don't necessarily even blame the individual officers. I blame the leadership. It's a top-down lack of imagination, okay? What would we do in this scenario? We can bitch, moan, and complain about the police and the state of policing in the United States, and it's been said once, it's been said a million times, good cop, bad cop, blah, blah, blah. But there's any number of videos out there of police interactions, police response. The Nashville school shooter is one of the best ones you'll ever see, of at least 2, if not 3 cops, level-headed, getting together, moving through the school, moving at high rate of speed, communicating all the way through, clearing corners, and then once we see the shooter, calling it out and putting the shooter down without one shot fired at a cop. They move quick, they move up, they are communicating the whole way, they're sticking together, they're shooting, moving, communicating. That's exactly how you draw it up, okay? There's any number of other ones where it's been same thing. Cops are able to maneuver, do things, communicating. It's the level of policing in the United States is probably better than any place on earth when we're talking about the threat of violence and places that actually have violent crime and in any number of things. Most cops nowadays have an AR in the car, in their patrol vehicle, to respond with. You know, I understand why, I guess, the Australian police wouldn't have an AR or rifle of any sort in their car, I guess. Um, that will probably change. Because the thing about, like, in Australia is it's a pretty wild place by any, by any stretch of the imagination with the wildlife and other things. A rifle has many uses. It doesn't just, stop an active shooter at distance. You may need it to put down a animal or something like that. I don't know. I don't live in Australia. I don't want to live in Australia. I like being on the upside of the world. I don't like being on the under. Everything's upside down. But this is the failure of the Western civilization to understand what is going on right now. When you import all of the third world into your countries, this is the shit you're going to get. You're importing the haters, you're importing the assholes, you're importing the jihadis, you're importing the terrorists, whatever that word means. You're importing all of these losers, all of these people who do not share one fucking thing with you and your country. Not culturally, not societally, no belief systems. I mean, when you import all of this crap, what do you expect? Again, it's a lack of imagination. You can't import the third world without any sort of baseline of assimilation. Not only without any sort of baseline of assimilation, it's been the complete opposite. It's been, let's bring all of these shitty people here from some shithole country and then tell them how great they are and how great their culture is and how great their food is that some retarded mayor tries to choke down on camera. That was hilarious. And keep your language, keep your traditions, keep all of this crap. If you want to run a rape and sex gang, go ahead. It's cool. You guys are from Pakistan. It's all right. Just be Pakistanis, just here in this country. Just hang out, do your own thing, have your own cultures, and we'll just sit here and sit idly by as the cowards we are and watch our culture diminish, degrade, and go away. That's where we're at. We have this lack of imagination of where this comes from. And then we have our president out there declaring fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. I don't know what that means. This is just platitudinal talking points. It is one of the most retarded things I think I've ever heard a politician say. I don't know if they're just that dumb or they think we're that dumb, although I saw a lot of people taking the old fentanyl bait. If fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction, does that mean you're going to start bombing and raiding hospitals and veterinary offices? Because that's prescribed daily in those places. Are we going to start blowing up like pharmaceutical buildings, pharmaceutical maker buildings and things of that nature? Because where do you think fentanyl comes from? And why stop at fentanyl? Why not go to like oxycodone, OxyContins, methadone, good old-fashioned morphine? Why is this one? Why is this the predicate for this? We have United States citizens being gunned down by some Portuguese national who's been here for 20 odd years, who's doing nothing. I don't care about Portugal. I don't care about this Portuguese bastard. Okay? You can make the case for the 47-year-old professor from MIT that he's using his expertise to teach students here, what have you, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Okay. But why is this guy from Portugal? There should be 3 people still alive if we had any sort of national identity, any sort of like imagination, any sort of just, true American identity that this country is for the people of this country. It's not for freeloaders to come here and hang out. It's not for some asshole from Portugal who somehow got here, not even really sure how he got here, but was on a student visa, which I don't even know that that should exist, and has just been hanging out ever since. I mean, one of the good things that's come out of this, if there is any sort of good thing, is that the DHS has suspended the green card lottery, in which basically 50,000 visas a year were just randomly issued in a lottery style to people of countries who do not normally immigrate here from their shithole country. Like, why would we give out 50,000 visas to places in which we don't have a lot of immigrants that come from? Can anyone tell me why that would make sense? So basically, the shittiest countries out there, we are importing 50,000 of them a year based on a lottery system. For what? So they can come here and start eating the cats, eating the dogs, eating the geese, ruining Minnesota, stealing by means of fraud and abuse from the social services that shouldn't really even exist. There should be no welfare state. You'd cure all of this. If there was no welfare state, there's nothing for them to abuse. We wouldn't have this problem. We also wouldn't have this problem if we didn't import the fucking third world. And so they bring all of their nastiness with them. They bring all of their trash with them. They bring all of their petty little squabbles and tribalism with them. That's the thing you get with the whole Islam movement, religion, cult, whatever we want to call it, is it's a tribalism. Okay? There's tribalism that exists within Islam, but there's tribalism all the way. It's nothing but a tribal squabble. That's what the Sunni and the Shiite really is. It's just a tribal squabble. They can't even get along with themselves. How can you possibly expect them to get along with Christians and Jews in this country? That's ridiculous. Why are they allowed to be here? You know, we had a guy that we imported from Afghanistan because he helped us over there in our stupid war that we fought there, and he shoots 2 National Guardsmen, kills one. Why the hell was he here? Why the hell are we putting up with this? You know, we have so many people that want to talk about, the Democrats. No, pal chief. The Republicans are just as guilty. This is not an us versus them politically. This is not a left-right thing. Okay? This is our political leaders have let us down completely. And yet we're just going to vote our way to some sort of prosperity or whatever. Look, we voted for the guy now. We voted for Trump. And now we're threatening war with Venezuela. What do you think happens when we start blowing up Venezuela? Do you think the Venezuelans just hang out there? Or do you think we import a whole bunch of fucking Venezuelans? Why? We don't need Venezuelans. We don't need them. Venezuela needs Venezuelans. I don't know why we give a shit about Venezuela. But they're running drugs, blah, blah, blah. So is Mexico. Blow it up. So's China. All of these arguments that can be made about Venezuela can be made about numerous countries. This is not anything unique to Venezuela. Hezbollah is in South America. I don't give a fuck. I'm not worried about Hezbollah. Who? What? What are they going to do? Because here's the thing. Your own logic about Venezuela and we need to regime change them because Hezbollah and this and that, and he's a dictator and blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? We're just going to import the Hezbollahians into this country if we blow up Venezuela. What do you think's going to happen? They're just going to end up here. Hell, they're probably already here. You had a thwarted New Year's Eve terrorist plot in Los Angeles by allegedly pro-Palestinian group. So there's that. You know, at a certain point, this is like that, I guess God Sod has been talking about suicidal empathy. You know, it's a great term that he came up with. Well, it's a horrible term, but it is a good term. It is so illustrative of where we're at right now. We have this suicidal empathy that we're so empathetic to someone's cause and they've been so mistreated that we just bring them here and we're empathetic and, oh no, you're cool. Yeah, just hang out. And then all of a sudden they want to blow us up, shoot us, do whatever. And why are we shocked by that? Why are we putting up with this? Why are we not demanding, you know, that not only should we be deporting these people, cutting off the flow of all of them coming into the country, putting a stop to any immigration. I want a moratorium on immigration for at least 10 years. We don't need other people coming here. It puts a strain on all the services. It puts a strain on our economy. It puts strains on everything. And then you just create the tribalism. It gets even worse. But really, politicians, they're just licking their finger, putting it in the air. They're like corporations. Most politicians are too goddamn stupid to have a position on anything. It's all a how do I get reelected popularity contest. So if we can exert pressure on all the dum-dums and all of the, your liberal aunts at Thanksgiving and Christmas and tell them that they're retarded and tell them to shut up, then maybe we can change everything. Maybe we can get our country back. Maybe we don't need human resources running our political policy for the country. Maybe, just maybe, we can get all of the Karens out of the way and get these people deported. Oh, but you're going to deport these poor people. Great. Go be poor in your natural, regular home country. Ilhan Omar, you can get the fuck out. We don't need you here. Why do we need anyone from Somalia here? Why? Because they built such a great and prosperous country over there? Why do we need to import anyone? I mean, how weird would it be if you traveled to Japan and it was like half fucking Muslim? There was no Japanese. No Japanese culture whatsoever. No Chinese culture if you went to China. Wouldn't that be weird? So why is there no American culture here? Why is that a bad thing? We built the greatest country on planet Earth, the most prosperous country on planet Earth. Richest country the world's ever seen, all of recorded history. And we're supposed to be upset about it. We're supposed to apologize for it. We're supposed to just let it be hollowed out from the inside by a bunch of basically parasites and leeches from third world shitholes? No, absolutely not. I'm sure you'll have people listen that's like, oh, it's so hateful, it's so bigoted, it's this, that, or the other. Call it what you want. I'm calling it pro-American. That's where the name Toxic American came from. Okay? This is my country. These are my countrymen. I don't want people from shitholes here. We don't need you. We literally don't need you. Oh, but this is a land of immigrants. You came here and you stole the land. Conquered, liberated. That's what we did. Okay? You're welcome, Indians. You're welcome. Do you know why you're welcome? Gave you the wheel, gave you an alphabet, among other things. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm sorry you lost. That's what happens. We didn't enslave you. We didn't genocide you. Contrary to popular belief and what everyone gets told, there was no genocide of the American Indians. None. None. Didn't happen. Just didn't happen. So, we didn't deport you either. We'll let you stay. Gave you full-blown rights. You know? Hell, the funniest part about the American Indians is y'all own slaves, black slaves. Sounds to me like you bought right into the system at the time. Nobody wants to talk about that. It's fine. Look up the freedmen. Blow your mind on that. So we have this sort of suicidal empathy that we need to feel sorry and we need to coax the third world to come here. And I'm out. The cultures, there are cultures and people that are just incompatible. It's oil and water. Okay. I mean, you can look over in the Middle East. It's incompatible. I mean, as far as like Christian Muslim, it's been incompatible for hundreds of years. Just look at the Crusades. Completely incompatible. You know, I don't see it as a dual-sided thing. I think Christians and the Western world would have no problem rubbing elbows with the Arab world if you could get your fucking act together and stop with the stupid tribalism that you fucking towelheads all want to be part of. Why? Let it go. Is it not better off to just live in a Western liberal republic? I mean, if your shithole was so good, wouldn't you still be there? This is the thing I never understand. It'd be like, living in a neighborhood talking about how shitty it is when you could just like leave, sell your house and buy another one. I just really don't understand. Like, I left this other neighborhood, it was bad, and I moved into this new one. And I'm going to tell you how bad this neighborhood is too. It's like, well, we like it here. You can leave. If you don't like it, go away. So when you import all of these people, you import all of their problems. If Australia hadn't imported a whole bunch of Muslims, you think two Muslim jihadis would have shot up a Hanukkah celebration? Probably doesn't happen if they're not in the country. Two Pakistani retards. Two inbred Pakistani goat fuckers. Why is anyone from Pakistan being brought into Australia? It's an island. I don't know how far Pakistan is from Australia, but it's far. You pass a lot of places before you get there. Go hang out in the Philippines and keep ruining it. Just ask the Filipinos how that's working out. Not working out well. A lot of people end up in the Philippines, learn how to blow shit up, and then go to Western countries and blow shit up. Odd how that happens. I mean, the Filipinos are trying to blow them, get a lot of them out of there, but I don't know, man. We have this whole sense of like safety and security, One of the things that's been mentioned a lot is like, how is there no security footage, camera footage of this shooter? And that's a valid question. Like, why is that not a thing? Like, why is that person's, the only pictures we had, security footage of like cameras on the street corners or whatever, like on somebody's Ring doorbell or something. But it points to a bigger fact of like, a camera's not going to save you. At best, it's going to get like your murder on tape or on, it's going to have footage of it. No one's manning the camera ready to like jump into action and save everyone. That's not happening. It's crazy to me too of like, they have these like active shooter text message alert systems in campuses now. Okay. What is that supposed to do? I would think the gunfire would be pretty obvious that there's a shooter. I don't need a text message to tell me that. Like, what? It's this illusion of safety. It's nonsensical. Oh, but the police. Oh, but the police what? You're your own first responder. The cops might get there in time. But if you watch that video from Australia, now obviously it's not one-to-one. It's not the same as like here in the United States, but municipalities vary. But when you watch that video, the dude is shooting for 10 minutes on that bridge. 10 minutes. No cop gets involved for 10 minutes. Hell, actually, I think it was 11 minutes, the footage I saw. Just popping shots off left and right. I don't know how many rounds that dude fired or his dad fired, but it wasn't 10. It's more than that. Just absolutely insane. And you can point to like Uvalde or Parkland or any number of like school shootings where the cops just literally didn't do anything, just let people die. But those are kind of anomalies and what have you. They happened. They're awful, but there's it's a little bit different too when you're talking about storming a building in a classroom. I mean, that's I'm not making excuses for those cowards, but there's whatever. My point is that when you're in an open environment like what we saw in Australia, you're the one who's going to get shot, officer. Like you've just got to go. That's how it works. That's the job. That's why you have the gun and the vest and all the things. Like you just have to go. You have to. That's your job. I don't know. Get in your damn police car and drive up like on the grass at a high rate of speed. I don't know. But do something. It's unbelievable to me that, you know, I mean, all of the scenarios that should go through your head as a police officer, have you never just been sitting there, been like, man, what if some guy with a rifle just showed up? What would I do? What would we do? No one ever said anything about that. No one ever thought that. Oh, these people can't have guns. The only people who have guns are the good guys because, the state has told us they're the good guys. By the way, how do two Pakistanis get gun permits in Australia? Again, that's the suicidal empathy thing. Like, I'm sure what happened. I can picture it now. I'm almost positive what happened. These two guys wanted to get these guns and get a gun permit, and some white administrator somewhere, probably a female, went, well, if I say no, they might think I'm racist, and I don't want to appear racist or xenophobic or whatever, so we'll let these guys have guns. These Pakistani Muslims. Yeah. How'd that work out? Did it work out well? You've got over a dozen people dead, more wounded. It's just unbelievable to me that people can't see this. Maybe this is being coordinated at some sort of higher level, international, the globalist. I don't know. Alex Jones will tell you all about that. But the thing I've always pictured as my country of the United States being is this bastion of we do what we want. We're kind of insulated. We've got a couple of oceans that separate us. Really only have two borders. We've got a lot of private gun ownership, and it's ever expanding every day. So we're a little bit different than every other country in that aspect. And we're also able to kind of pivot on a dime as a country, as an economy, as a political body. We got 50 independent little governments within the United States who act somewhat independently, and we need to start acting more independently. We need to get off the government teat of money and welfare and all of those things, and we need to prioritize as states, as our own individual 50 little republics who then are represented in Washington, D.C. as a whole, as 50 little different entities. That's how we need to act. We need to get back to that. It's obviously it's a long road to get there because it was a long road to get here. But the sooner we start down that road, the sooner we'll get there. But this whole thing of importing the third world to our beautiful country only to have it undermined, and this whole thing of like we're going to talk about fentanyl being a weapon of mass destruction without ever tackling any of the real issues of why so many people are addicted to fentanyl and recreational drugs that are really, really, really awful. The other thing about the fentanyl thing is like, obviously I am sympathetic to someone who's overdosed, okay? I don't wish anyone to overdose and to die or anything like that. But is the word not out there in the drug world that something might have fentanyl in it? Like, I'm sorry. I remember being a kid and it was like, you have to be careful if you're going to smoke weed because someone might have laced it with like methamphetamine or PCP or any number of things. And it's like, Hell, I remember being told as a kid your parents had to inspect your Halloween candy because someone might have put a razor blade in it. And I could never figure out how would you get the razor blade in without disturbing the packaging? It's a sealed package. I never understood that. And who are these crazy razor blade people? I mean, are they like super excited to hand out candy on Halloween, or are they kind of anyway? I mean, is the word not out in the drug world that fentanyl's a thing? Like it's a thing now. If us normie non-drug people know about it, obviously the people in the drug world know about it. But here's the other thing. I think I mentioned this before that people don't understand is that now people have a appetite for straight fentanyl, which is crazy. You know, 10, 15 years ago, it was quaint that somebody had an Oxycontin problem, and then that led into a heroin problem when that got cut off. But this is even more powerful than those. And after the Civil War, you had people addicted to morphine, laudanum, any number of things. Opiates have always been a thing, or not always, but they've been a big thing for a long time. And it just keeps going down the road of more powerful. Why are we not addressing the question of why so many people feel the need to do some sort of recreational fentanyl or opiate or whatever? This whole thing of like, oh, either Johnny or Susie was at a party and they took some pill that someone gave them, they dropped dead because it had fentanyl in it. Yeah, I'm sure that's happened. Are we not going to address why Johnny or Susie took the pill? Why that sounded like a good idea? I mean, this is like banning TikTok or trying to like ban social media because kids might view it. Yeah, I get it. Parents control a lot of stuff for their kids. So there's that. Um, I don't know. You're always going to have some sort of like addiction within a culture and a society, unfortunately. It would be nice to maybe address that more broadly instead of just going, you know what? Let's start blowing up Venezuela. Yep, because of fentanyl or something. Even though 10-second Google search will tell you that fentanyl, majority of it comes through the Mexican border, the southern border, and the raw materials are delivered by China to cartels in Mexico who then make the fentanyl with the raw materials and then bring it up through the southern border. But we're out there blowing up fucking fast boats and lying, apparently, never addressing the root cause, never addressing the root cause of why we're importing the third world, never addressing the root cause of why people with horrific cultures and backwards beliefs are within our borders just hanging out on visas plotting to kill us. No one ever questions that. No one ever tackles that. We're finally starting to kind of tackle it here under the second Trump administration. And all of the people who are saying that he's horrific for what he's doing, I want them deported as well. I want those people shut up. I want those people in a jail cell because they're the people allowing it to happen. They're the ones out there championing it. They're the ones who are helping to ruin our country, and they're just as bad, if not worse, than the pieces of shit who are here plotting to kill us, plotting to do the things. Here's the other thing. If you cure the illegal immigration out of Mexico, you cure the cartel problem too. Do you think the majority of the cartel people here are here illegally? You think they went through the documentation process? Nah, me either. So if you deport the 20 million illegal people, well, that's what you call a good start. This is not going to end well. I know that a lot of people that I talk to are just waiting for the next big event here within the United States, whatever that really means. I know there are those out there who have said that under the Biden administration and probably under previous administrations as well, we basically imported thousands of jihadis that hate our guts. I can see that. It wouldn't shock me. I guess what I'll tell you is there's there was a lot of heroes there in Australia that day, by the way. I haven't mentioned that. There's the one guy who took the gun from the guy and took some rounds. That was a very heroic thing. There was other heroic people on that bridge. But I want to point out some things. And I probably should have got the video, but this is a podcast, and I'm not the world's greatest producer when it comes to that. You can find the video. There's a video. There's many actual videos, cell phone videos of people who were on Bondi Beach that day as the shots were ringing out, and they're just laying on the ground filming. Okay. I need to stress this as much as I can, and I'm no expert. I don't have like an area of expertise necessarily in this, but I have ears, eyes, and common sense, and I know people to listen to and what they're talking about, that I know what they're talking about. And here's the thing. When the shots start ringing out, especially if you're unarmed, move away from the sound of the shots. Do not just lay down on the ground waiting to be shot, okay? If it's possible for you to make an egress, i.e. leave, do that. If you're in a store, say you're in Walmart, and you hear gunshots ring out, do not go towards the gunshots. Go out a back door. Do not just sit down on the back side of the aisle and hide. Do not do that. Move away under cover, okay? Don't just run out in the open if you can avoid it. Move under cover, behind the racks, behind other things, and go out a back exit. Yes, you should go out the one that says alarm will sound if you go out this door in the event of a mass shooting or any sort of shooting inside a store. Have that alarm go off. Pull the fire alarm if you hear gunshots. That's going to help everyone get the hell out. That's also going to alert the authorities instantly. Do not pull out your cell phone as you lay on the ground waiting to be shot like a wounded dog or something. Do not do that. Do not do that. Move. Obviously, if you're somewhere and shots ring out and they're hitting around you, maybe get down. Yeah, you want to get down. If you see the shooter, you just happen to look up and see the shooter and they raise their firearm in your direction, try to get off the X. Run like that way, okay? If the shooter's here, run that way. That's a hard shot. Don't run that way. Obviously use some common sense, and if right behind you is cover, there's a difference between cover and concealment. Concealment means they can't see you, but they could shoot through the thing and hit you. Cover means that bullets won't penetrate it, like concrete barriers, things of that nature. If there's one there, then go that way. Get behind the barrier, okay? If not, run that way to the nearest cover concealment that you can find. Cover's best. Concealment does work. At least that way they can't get a beat on you and actually shoot you. They can try to shoot through the object or whatever, but that's a tough shot. But the key to this is fucking move. Do not just lay there with your cell phone just going, oh man, there's people shooting. Yeah, move, motherfucker. Move. You can watch any number of videos in which, a person starts shooting in a crowded area, whatever. Do not just lay down. Leave. Don't try to. Here's the other thing. I had to have this conversation with my father, which I think I convinced him. If you're in a store and someone comes in shooting, let's just assume it's an attempted mass shooting. Okay? Do not move towards the gunfire, even if you're carrying. Do not do that. At best, what you should do, the most aggressive move you should make, this is not legal advice, but it sort of is. The most aggressive move you should make, assuming that you're not right there with the shooter, locked eyes with them as they start shooting, if you're just in the store and you hear it, what you should do is you should find the nearest exit and point it out to people while having your pistol drawn. Because one of the things that happened in the Australia scenario, I don't know how many people saw this video, but once the shooter was actually down, both shooters were down, there was a guy. So in the foreground of the video I saw, you can see the officer. Now the bridge kind of had a hump to it, so you couldn't see over the other side if someone was laying down. So your field of view is obstructed. You had an officer who came up on this side and a guy that came up the other side who was in a black shirt. This is on that guy, who then is like trying to disarm the shooter who is down, and the cop shoots that guy, the Good Samaritan, the guy trying to help. That is not an isolated incident. As far as policing and mass shootings go, I don't necessarily blame the officer because, I mean, come on. When you see that from the officer's point of view, you see a guy who, you know, at least from the video I could see, sort of resembled the shooter or one of the shooters in the same color shirt on that side who is doing something on the ground and I can't see. Yeah, I have to shoot. I have to. I think that guy survived, but he took a round. Understand your surroundings is kind of the number one thing here. Because my point to this is, if you're in a store and a mass shooting, or someone starts shooting in a mass shooting event and you start running towards it, if a cop is coming in the store through the front door, what are they going to see? They're going to see a guy running with a gun out, probably presenting it, like they're going to shoot. What do you think the cop's going to do? You know what you know, and the cop knows what that cop knows. Okay? And they're not the same. You know that guy is the shooter. The cop is just arriving. As far as he knows, there's two shooters. Okay? He's going to shoot both of you. Or try to. And that's what he's supposed to do. Now, there's a whole bunch of gray area in that. We're not getting into that today. But my point is, if you're in that scenario, do not be the hero unless you're forced to be the hero. That's exactly what I told my father. If you're in a scenario where you have to shoot, then you shoot. If not, do not look for a fight. Avoid the fight at all costs. At all costs. Get the hell out. You're not a cop. You never were a cop. You're not going to be a cop. And today, you're definitely not going to be a cop. Nobody wants to shoot somebody, hopefully. The last thing that any of us carrying a firearm, concealed carry firearm, want to do is to have to use the motherfucker. I never want to have to use it. I have it in case I need to use it, but I never want to actually have to use the thing. Even if I'm in a situation where someone starts shooting, I am not just going to run towards, I'm not a cop. I'm not running towards the shots. I'm not doing that. I'm not. See, that's the other part of if you take the Australia scenario and you put it here in America, and, plenty of people talking about what they would have done, this, that, or the other. The cop is going to shoot you. All he sees is two shooters. Now, if you meet up with the cop and say, hey, man, guys over there, I'm armed. You want me to come with you? You're just one guy. That's a conversation that can happen in 3 seconds. And he could say, no, get the fuck out of here, or yes, come with me. Name's Tim, let's go, or whatever. That's something you can do. But if you just run off, charging into the hill of gunfire, first of all, you run a pretty good risk to get shot. Or if you're standing at 50 yards shooting at a guy, and the cop comes up around you, probably shooting you, dog. Sorry, he has to. To think that the cop has any idea who's responding to that scenario, that he has any idea who the good guy, bad guy shooter is, you can't assume that. And to assume that means you're going to die, or at least get shot, or at least take rounds or get shot at. Okay? So don't do that. That's the other thing. Use your fucking heads, guys. And I don't know. It's crazy to see Australia here. What they're doing now is they're banning more guns in public assembly now. For your safety, you can't assemble. COVID may have been a trial run, man. At this point, I think it might have been. I don't know. We're living in wild times in which 2 police forces couldn't crack a case on a shooter, but some homeless guy with a Reddit account and a cell phone did, apparently. I mean, it's wild. Oh, I kind of want off this ride sometimes. At least they solved it, I guess, allegedly. But now the conspiracy theories that are coming out, or people are coming up with in regards to this Brown shooter, are wild, and I can't wait to hear them all, because I love a good conspiracy theory. But anyway. All right, so that's been about an hour. I'm going to wrap this up. Thank everybody for listening. Thank everybody, like, subscribe, do all the things, blah, blah, blah. Come and hang out in the chat. Can't just be Merc and Jake all the time, although I love you guys for doing that. Appreciate it very much. Anyway, until next time, everybody stay safe. Have a Merry Christmas, because I will do the show next week, barring any unforeseen events. But Christmas is going to happen in between, and I wish you a Merry Christmas, and you should wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Do not say Happy Holidays. Say Merry Christmas to everyone. We're bringing it back. We're never going away with it again. I'm not even Christian, but I love Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone, okay? I'll see you guys next week.